Hello. I'm going to take a look at some of the replays from yesterday's challenge that I managed to top 4 with this Familiars deck. This deck list is actually based off of a Kalikai's deck list that he posted, this 5-0-10-0 with Familiars, and the main change is the Echoing Truth in the main deck. There's 2 Prismatic Strands in the main deck. Sage Road Denizen back in the sideboard. Other than that, it's a pretty straightforward Familiars list. A couple of changes I made to that list were I added a Tranquil Cove over an Ashbrands, and I added 2 Last Breaths to the sideboard over Evoke Resistance and the Sage's Row. I ended up running into a bunch of mono blue in leagues, and this is nice versus that while also being good versus walls. Obviously, Inside Out is better versus walls than Last Breath is, but having splash damage versus fairies, if I expected to see that, was going to be nice. And then also if you run into like Goblin combo, Mogwarts, this is decent there. So yeah, the Echoing Truth in the main deck plus the Prismatic Strands gives you a decent game against Blue-Black Terror, which is a tough matchup because you can have enough bounce spells for the 5 bounce spells for the Anglers, and you can plan to cast Prismatic Strands and name blue for the Terrors, which should buy you enough time to assemble some sort of win, basically. Alright, let's take a look at the matches. Okay, round 1. I played against this player before in challenges. They usually play Orzhov, which is a good matchup. I kept this hand. I think it's fine. It's not great because I'm not doing anything until turn 3, and I risk hitting my 3rd land, but it looks like they're on just 2 swamps, or two black sources, so they don't have white mana. So I think I decided to play the Modern Age here because I didn't want them to be able to spend their mana on this turn, because luckily they're holding up like a cast down or some removal spell here, and being able to blink their mana is good. So I think I discard Prismatic Strands. Pretty straightforward. And then I guess I'm probably at this point looking for like a bounce land or an Ephemerate to draw some cards with. The replays ended up lagging a bit, so hopefully that isn't too much of a problem, but Magic Online replays are not great. So I discard Deep Analysis, cycle for an island. I'm just going to play a Familiar and immediately flashback Deep Analysis. Even if they kill the Familiar, at least I get some value out of it. And they missed a land. So I'm feeling like this game is probably over. A lot of their white sources are tap lands anyways, so it's going to be like 2 more turns before they can play white spells. So I'm feeling pretty good in this spot. Not sure why Magic Online is lagging so much. So I feel like in this spot I could go like Familiar, Bounce Land, Evoke Drifter, but I'd rather just develop my mana and go for it next turn. So they kill the Familiar, and I bounce it back to my hand. This is good because next turn I can go Familiar, Drifter, Ephemerate, or Drifter, Snap, Drifter maybe. And they missed a land, so I feel like this game is pretty much just over. Play the Familiar. I just slam a Drifter, save the Snap for later. And they find their white mana, return a Bog. We attack, put the Familiar on top, slam a Drifter, play their Familiar. At this point, they're just super dead. I can even skip forward a little bit. Like, there's no... Looks like they played a Vampire Sovereign, we can just counter that. Go to our turn. And we're sort of flooding out a bit, but we have Modern Age. This is why the Modern Age is so strong, is that it's good in the early game to help you dig to your Familiars and hit your land drops, and then in the late game when you get flooded out, you can just discard the lands. Super good. Pick up a land. Imagine we're going to snap and replay Drifter. And they're just not winning. Hey, Vampire Sovereign representing Ephemerate. We can just counter that. Yeah, when I was recording the replays, it was really slow at the beginning, and then it got a bit faster. So hopefully, it's a bit better going forward, because it was a bit laggy. Discard planes. Attack with everything. They go to Ephemerate. We counter it, and they're dead. Okay, game 2. So for this matchup, I sideboarded in 1 negate and 1 revoke existence, it looks like, and I boarded out Prismatic Strands, a Snap, and an Echoing Truth. Let's see, what else did I board in? I also boarded in a Dispel, because Dispel lights up nicely against their Ephemerates and stuff. I brought in a Revoke Existence because oftentimes these players really like Relic and Progenitus because they think it's good against us, and it can be good against us if they can put pressure behind it. But just being able to exile the Relic is always nice. So Sand is fine. I've got a bounce land, and they've got a Relic. Imagine we just start with Preordain here. So you find another Preordain, Modern Age, activate Relic, have another Relic, and people really like to board in Relic versus Familiars, which is fine, but it's not great. So I played Modern Age, discard, I think, a Flicker. And the nice thing about having 2 Flickers in the deck is that you can easily just discard the first one to the Modern Age and have it get exiled and not care. In some builds, when you only play 1 Flicker, you really have to hold on to it because it's a problem. You can't combo if it's exiled. So they play Dawnbringer Cleric, destroy the Modern Age. That's definitely good for them. I have another one. Discard a Storefront, play Bounce Land. And now I'm pretty close to being able to go Familiar, Snap, Drifter. Let's see. Do some more looting. Discard an Island, play Familiar, play Modern Age, discard Snap, and I find an Ephemerate. So next turn we can go, well, next turn if we hit a land we can go Familiar, Evoke Drifter, or Snap the Drifter, and then Evoke the Drifter and Ephemerate. So we do. Island, Familiar, Evoke, Snap, Evoke again, and Ephemerate. So now they're super far behind. And despite these relics being supposedly good against us, they do absolutely nothing against Muldrifter. And now we're just super far ahead. And let's see. Play some stuff, play the Modern Age. Cycle for a planes. I think I revoke one of the relics while they're tapped out. Attack for 6. We're at 10, so we're probably going to triple block, I would imagine. They go for a cast down. I can just prohibit the second removal. I actually can't prohibit the second removal, so they kind of blow us out there. It should be fine. We get to loot. Definitely not in a great spot. Archaeomancer returns Ephemerate. Ephemerate returns Revoke. Revoke the Relic. I could have played Mortuary Mire to put Muldrifter on top, but I decided it was more important to hold up a counterspell. So I counter, go to 9. And now if they have a Flicker as their last card, we're dead. But they don't. So we go to 6 or 3. Take 6, go to 3. Return Ephemerate. And we draw Muldrifter. So now we can put the other Drifter on top first, I think. Yep. And then evoke Ephemerate. Now we should have enough blockers to not lose. Drawing all the Muldrifters. I decided to evoke that, hoping to draw, I don't know, I guess another counter. They attack for 6. We have to block. I imagine we double block here. Yep. Go to 2. They flashback Changer's Edict. It's an easy counter. We have an Ephemerate going, so trading resources is always good. Another Evoke Ephemerate. Draw some cards. Play another Carromancer. Now we have more counters. And they're just super dead. And they concede. Alright, round 2. So we're against Jordan, and this player always plays this crazy Blitz deck with Simian Spirit Guides and stuff, so I was basically accepting that I was going to lose this round, which is fine. So this hand, I decided to keep. Maybe I should have mulliganed, I don't know. I think it's fine. Because I have both my colors, I have a Faithful, I can draw some cards. I just have to hope I don't die on turn 2. They play a Crowan Crusader. So I just play my Faithful, bounce lands, I go. Now I have a snap, which is nice, so if they go all in, I can try to snap that. And then here I take a risk. It's possible they'll have like mutagenic Temur Battle Rage or something, and I'll die, but I think it's worth taking the risk. And I draw a Prismatic Strand, which is great, because now I can hope they go all in, and then play Strands, and hope to counter it. I guess in this spot I just hold up Snap. But worst case scenario, I can snap one of my own creatures and then cast Prismatic Strands if they go all in. They pass. Evoke the Drifter. Snap the Drifter. Evoke the Drifter again. And we're just going to hold up Strands. Attack, line up blocks, guess Temur Battle Rage, we say okay, give them priority again, yes, Mutagenic Growth, looks like they're done, now we cast Strands, and they concede. Game 2. So it looks like I brought in 4 Hydroblasts and 2 Revoke Existence, and I boarded out, and a Dispel, and I boarded out Deep Analysis, Echoing Truth, 2 Faithfuls, and a Familiar. I think this makes, and I also boarded out Flickers. I think this makes a bit of sense. I think that Last Breath is really bad against Mutagenic Growth, and I need Revoke Existence for the artifact creature. So I think this is fine. And they have the Soul Eater, Spirit Guide. So I have to hold up my Hydroblast because if they have Temur Battle Rage, I just die basically, or go very low. Also, I can counter like a Kiln Fiend if they play that. They attack, cast Mutagenic Growth, go over Temur Battle Rage to kill us, and we are dead. Game 3. On the play. This is a bit of a risky hand, but I have Revoke Resistance, I have Snap, I have the Modern Age Deep Analysis combo, so it's fine. I don't have white mana yet though. So I find an island. They Simian Spirit Guide out the Soul Eater. I snap it, replay Modern Age, discard Deep Analysis probably. Yep. They replay the creature. I draw a Hydroblast, so I'm gonna hold that up so I don't die. Play another one, definitely a problem. So now The problem is my white mana comes in tapped, so I can't use Revoke on the Soul Eater, so I decided to flashback the Deep Analysis, which I think is fine. They attack, I'm gonna block. Play Battle Rage, I'll counter it. And they counter back, so I'm dead. So you can make it a 9/9 and deal 18, or a 9/1, make deal 18 damage. Alright, so now we're 1-1. On to round 3. On the play. Sand is a bit weak. I wish this Plains was an island so I could cast Preordain, but on the play with the bounce land's totally fine. So they're on Black-White Ephemerate, which is another good matchup. Play Spirited Companion, not really that important. I just play the Familiar. Maybe I shouldn't have, but I kind of wanted to spend my mana. Play the Chancery, pick up the island, play the Modern Age, probably discard the Plains. And now I just need a Muldrifter to go off, basically. They blink the Companion. Familiar, snap their Companion, they go to Ephemerate, I prohibit it. The reason I wanted to snap their Companion here is because they had an Ephemerate in exile, so obviously it's not great value to snap a creature that has an ETB effect, but they were going to draw a card for free anyways, so I assumed this was good. So I replay the Archaeomancer, turn prohibit, and now I prohibit slash Ephemerate up. And they go to kill the Archaeomancer, so counter. They try again, Ephemerate. At this point they're dead, so they can see, because I can just keep looping prohibit for the rest of the game. Game 2. Let's see, I think I sideboarded similarly. I boarded out Echoing Truth, Prismatic Strands, and a Snap, and I boarded in a Negate, a Dispel, and a Revoke Existence. Prismatic Strands isn't actually that good against this deck, because the removal spells are black. It's mainly only good against either like red removal spells or Terror specifically. The Sand is okay. It's a bit awkward, the Tranquil Cove for the Chancery, but it's fine. You can just hold up a counterspell on turn 2. The main turn that's important when playing against this deck is the 5th turn, because they have the Initiative creature that comes out on turn 5 and the Vampire Sovereign that comes out on turn 5. And so I feel like holding up the loose focus for that is going to be the most important thing that I can do. Attack. Cast Preordain. Ghostly Flicker Familiar. I think I keep the Familiar, bottom the Flicker. Pick up the island and have to go to cleanup. Probably just discard Deep Analysis. Discard a Snap. I guess that makes sense because I don't have that much card draw. Just want to keep all the cards flowing. Vampire Sovereign will counter it. Familiar, Modern Age, discard Deep Analysis, flash it back, hold up a counter. Not the best, not the worst. I'm kind of running low on card draw. Fight over, cast down, they bog us. So now I don't have any counter spells left for creatures. All I have is Negate and Dispel. That should be good enough. Shouldn't matter too much. Slammer Drifter, draw some cards. So now I decided to play around Suffocating Fumes here. They probably should have boarded that card out if they had it. So probably I just should have blocked both. Because this isn't game 1. But they have Arms of Fadar, and they bog us. So now, Preordain into a Muldrifter, which is great. Slam that. Play the Chancery, pick up the Mire. They attack with everything. I block a Thread Inspector. They Ephemerate it. Draw a card. Play Vampire Sovereign. Play a Familiar, hold up a Flicker to block the Sovereign because we're going super low. We're at 6. They have 2 cards. So I go line up some blocks, flicker the drifter, draw 2 more drifters. They play the initiative. So now I need to get infinite life, basically. It's going to be my best way to win this game. So draw a familiar, loot away prismatic strands, play the familiar, float 2 blue. Arcanemancer returns Ghostly Flicker, and then at this point I can invoke this and then flicker Arcanemancer or Mole Drifter and draw 2 more cards, return Ghostly Flicker. And I can try to dig to a Godfarer's Faithful to try to gain infinite life, which would win me the game. But if I brick on that and then pass the turn to them, if they have like a flicker effect, I'm kind of hosed, and I'm going to have to chump block with creatures because they can forge the Vampire Sovereign. So I felt like I wanted to dig but still leave up some mana, so that if I like needed to dig to a counterspell, I could do that. They find an Ephemerate, which is decent. Draw some cards. Play an island and then pass. So now I can dig for stuff at instant speed. And they Ephemerate the Paladin, which is going to be lethal because if they ever can advance to the trap on their own turn, we're at 5 and we'll just die. So I flicker these 2, try to draw into a counterspell. Snap also sort of works. It doesn't actually work because they can just replay this on their own turn and then still advance the trap and I'll die. So I basically need a counterspell for this Ephemerate or I lose. And then I can't evoke the Arcanemancer anymore because I need mana, so I flicker the Drifter and the Island, hoping to draw a counter. And I draw a spell, so counter that, so I go. Now I just have to hope they don't have a flicker effect. So now I have to block. I want to keep both the familiars in play because I have the infinite life combo when I get to my turn. Return Ephemerate. And now I can just gain infinite life. But there's really no reason to actually execute the infinite life thing. At least at the start of the turn, because the opponents don't often concede to it, and it's just a waste of time, like going up to 20 life. Because I can just gain infinite life at instant speed if they try to kill me. So I draw some cards. And I think they conceded here. Yep. Alright. 2-1, round 4. Against Walker. So I assumed Walker was going to be playing Spellstutter Sprite Affinity. She was. This hand is like okay. It's a bit slow for the draw, but it's okay. So they start with a Wellspring, play Bounce Land, go to cleanup, discard Deep Analysis. Walker plays a Wellspring and then misses a 3rd land drop, which is definitely good. I just need to be able to punish the land drop. So they play Blood Fountain. Looks like they missed a land. They have to discard 2 cards. Discard 2 Spellstutter Sprites. So I go Drifter Ephemerate, forcing them to spend mana to destroy the Drifter instead of trying to dig to their land. So they hit the land. Oh, lots of things going on here. So they hit their land. They cast Thoughtcast, and they play 3 Mirror Enforcers. So it makes sense that they kept a land light hand because they have 3 Mirror Enforcers. This is going to be a tough game, but they didn't destroy the Drifter, so I get to draw 2 more cards on my upkeep, 1 for turn, and potentially more with the Ephemerate, and I have a Snap. So if I draw a Familiar, I can like sort of go off here. Draw some cards, draw a Snap, no Familiar, draw 2 more, hoping to hit a Familiar. So now we Snap an Enforcer, make 2 mana, Snap another Enforcer, make 2 mana, play the Arcanemancer, turn Snap, Snap the Enforcer, make 2 more mana, go to cleanup. And at this point I just wanted to hold up like counter spells because they don't have that much mana, so Lose Focus was going to be pretty effective. And then if they don't do anything, I can just like Ephemerate and Ghostly Flicker to draw some cards to try to hit a Familiar on the end step. Replay the Enforcers, yep, and they say go. So on the end step, I choose the Flicker, the Archaeomancer, and the Drifter, holding up Ephemerate. So if I have a Galvanic Blast, I can just Ephemerate in response to that. Let's see what they do. Cast a Bargain, draw some cards. Cast another Bargain, I think. Yep. This is totally fine. I feel like I'm super far ahead here because I'm just going to have a ton of cards going into my next turn. And now, like, I can play the Familiar and then, like, return Snap a bunch of times and make a bunch of mana and then draw more cards, and this is just a great spot. It's really good that I was able to punish Walker for missing on their third land because Affinity will sometimes miss on their third land, and if you aren't able to win those games, then you're not looking very good. Draw two more. Oops. So now I have a Faithful, so I can go like snap this, play a Faithful, maybe like Preordain, and if I hit another Familiar, I have infinite life. But at this point, I'm just super far ahead. Like, I have 11 cards in hand, Ephemerate going, and they concede. Alright, game 2. So against Affinity, sometimes I board differently depending on what their deck is. But against Walker, I boarded out 3 Faithfuls, 1 Familiar, 2 Prismatic Strands, an Echoing Truth, and 2 Flickers. The Flickers you don't really need because post-board you just end up destroying all their permanents with Dust to Dust and Ephemerate, so you don't actually need the Flickers to combo. The Prismatic Strands are quite good in game 1 because you can counter Clan Shaman, you can let the first activation resolve and then flashback Strands to negate the board wipe. But post-board they don't have enough permanents to sacrifice, so they often end up boarding out Clan Shaman, so Prismatic Strands is worse. And then I board out 3 Faithfuls because gaining life isn't super relevant. I just want to kill their creatures with Dust to Dust. And then Familiar isn't as good when I don't have as many blue cards in my deck. And also, like, it doesn't discount Dust to Dust. And then I think I boarded in 2 Negates, 1 Dispel, 4 Dust to Dust, and 2 Revoke Resistance. This hand is not keepable, no lands. This hand is kind of sketchy, but if I ever draw a Revoke, I can play it, and I can use Snap to make a double white. So if I have Island, Plains out, and they have a creature, I can float a white, cast Snap, untap Plains Island, and then have white, blue to cast Dust to Dust. So that was my thought process behind keeping this. It's a bit slow, which I'm not a fan of. I think if this was a 7-card hand, I would probably mulligan, but it's fine. Play an island. I play a star. It's fine. I'm just going to hold up the Lose Focus for their draw spells. And they're probably going to hold up counter spells for my Dust to Dust that I don't have yet. Play an island, cast Preordain. See, Muldrifter, Sunscape Familiar. So at this point, I'm just kind of hoping that they have a bunch of counterspells, because if they have a bunch of counterspells, I can just Deep Analysis and pull super far ahead. And they pass. No 4th land drop. Play the Familiar. Say go. Play Draws Forge Bridge. Now they have red mana on their next turn. Evoke Muldrifter. Snap the Drifter. Preordain looking for another land. I find a bounce land, which is a bit awkward. I should have untapped both of 2 islands instead of Island Plains when I cast the Snap, but I think I was thinking about evoking the Drifter and then ephemerating it, but given that I was going to cast Preordain, I definitely should have untapped 2 islands instead of Island Plains. Especially if now I'm going to pass with Lose Focus up. Now they dispute. I would love to have countered this, but I untapped my mana wrong. And they miss out on another land drop, go to clean up. Definitely a good spot. Because now we're in a spot where they probably boarded in like Turnaside, Negates, Pyroblasts to win the counter war over the land destruction spells, and we're just going to pull super far ahead with the card draw spells. Like Deep Analysis being countered is totally fine because you can just flash it back. Draw some cards. The Galvanic plus the Familiar. I choose to Snap the Familiar because I want to save these counter spells for the counter war over the Dust to Dust. And there we go, we draw some Dust to Dust. Play a Wellspring. I decided not to counter that because I want to save the counter spells for the Dust to Dust. Play Mirror Enforcer. Say go. I discard the third Familiar, which is pretty useless here. And I cast Dust to Dust targeting these two lands. I really want to cut them off red. And I have 17 life, so I can take a couple hits from the Mirror Enforcer and just maybe dust it next turn. They negate. I negate back. They Pyroblast. And I lose focus. And this resolves, I think. Yep, so this is a good spot. I just evoke a Drifter, draw some cards. They dispute, hit their land. No blocks. Go to 13. I do have to be worried about double Galvanic Blast. I'd like to stay above 8 if possible. So I revoke their land, hoping they counter it, and then I play Deep Analysis, and now I don't have much card draw left, so this is not a great spot. Obviously I have 2 Dust to Dust, which is good against their lands, but it's possible that I'll run out of card draw, and then they'll just Galvanic Blast me a couple times, and I'll die. So I Dust the Enforcer, and the land, they negate it. So now I flashback Deep Analysis. Now I have an Archaeomancer, which is decent, so I can rebuy whatever I want. And I block. I don't want to die to double Galvanic Blast. Play another Mirror Enforcer, Gear Seeker Serpent, totally fine. So I discard the Ashbrands, makes sense. Dust the Enforcers. The Archaeomancer, return Preordain. What I'm looking for at this point is an Ephemerate, because I can like block an Ephemerate and dispel if they have any interaction there, and then I can go to my turn and Ephemerate, return Dust to Dust, and like keep dusting every turn. Or I can even return Snap and they can't really replay this. But I don't find anything. I find a Snap. It's kind of okay, but not great. Cast a Wellspring, sure. So I take 5. If they have double Galvanic Blast, I can at least counter the second one. Keep looting. Play another Modern Age, keep looting. Find a negate, which is okay, but not great. I choose to snap the Archaeomancer. And then replay it so that I can try to dig to an Ephemerate. Because if I ever find an Ephemerate, I'm just going to be super far ahead. I don't find anything. I find another Archaeomancer. At this point, I'm just going to hold up the negate, because I don't want to get cheesed out. Block with a Familiar. They go for an upkeep Galvanic Blast on the Mancer, which I counter, and now I have an Ephemerate. So now I basically just win, because I can rebuy a counterspell every turn, or rebuy Dust to Dust every turn. And they concede. Alright, round 5. We are 3-1. I looked this player up and I thought they were likely on burn, so I'm going to look into this. It's a fine hand. It's not great, but good enough. So now on turn 2, or next turn if I draw Mole Drifter, I can go Familiar, land, snap, evoke the Drifter, Ephemerate. I decide to Bolt us, get in. I decide to snap and replay. I play Faithful, and I discard Ephemerate. I guess this is fine because I can return the Ephemerate with the Archaeomancer, and I want to hit my land drops. They bolt the Familiar. I think I decided to block here because it's not likely they have more Lightning Bolts. And if they had a Galvanic Blast, they would have just used it. So they cast Reckless Impulse, definitely their best card they could have here. And I think I decided to block again because if they choose to deploy a burn spell, that means they're not playing one of these creatures that can attack me next turn. They have land, play the Force Chanter. So now I replay the Archaeomancer, get back Ephemerate, say go. And now the issue here is that I can Ephemerate and buy back Lose Focus or Snap, but there's no, like, I don't have any card draw. So I'm just kind of stuck here like casting a snap every turn until I find a Preordain or a Mold Drifter or something like that. They cast Reckless Impulse, still their best card here. Very good. They flip Implement, Galvanic Blast. So they could have Galvanic Blast of the Faithful, but I guess they're planning to set up for a big attack next turn. So Ephemerate, return Snap, Ephemerate, return Ephemerate, draw an Archaeomancer, return Lose Focus. And my plan here was to cast Lose Focus to counter unless they pay 4 on the Galvanic Blast, so they couldn't destroy the Faithful. But they have a land, so that doesn't work. I choose to bounce the Faithful, which is fine. No reason to float mana because I can counter whatever they play. And I do choose to counter. Take 6. Return Ephemerate. And Preordain. So this is great, because now instead of looping snaps every turn that are just like not doing much against the Swift Spear, I can loop a Preordain every turn and try to dig to more useful cards. Find a familiar, Ephemerate, return Preordain, play it again, find an island. Now I feel like if I can untap here, I'm in a good spot. So they discard an Epic here, play Reckless Impulse. Again, is their best card here, but it's fine. Mountain and the Festivities. So I'm definitely glad they have the Festivities in their deck for the mirror match and not anything useful. I mean, this is not useless, but it definitely could be something else. Like a Lava Dart would be very good for them here. They attack for 6. I can't really block because this has a damage marked on it, so we're going down to 3. Return Ephemerate. So now I can return Snap, and I can play the Familiar, snap something, play Archaeomancer, and then return like maybe a Preordain and play that. I choose to fetch before playing Preordain, of course. They say nope. I actually return a Snap, which I guess makes sense because I can like block and snap, or if they have a burn spell for the Faithful, I can protect the Faithful. Which I think this makes more sense because I have an Ephemerate loop going, and if I can just protect that, I'm gonna win. Replay Swift Spear, cast Kuldotha Rebirth, and this at this point Kuldotha Rebirth is not very good because I have a million blockers. Return Ephemerate, and draw Deep Analysis. Now I can draw a bunch of cards. Draw Drifter, so now I can evoke Snap. I choose to snap a token and then evoke Ephemerate the Drifter. At this point, I think before I drew these cards, I was going to evoke this, and then I could decide whether or not I wanted to Ephemerate the Archaeomancer to return Snap and then snap the Drifter, or if I wanted to instead just Ephemerate the Drifter. Like if I drew a counterspell, I'd want to do that. But because I drew the second Ephemerate, now I can Ephemerate the Archaeomancer to return Snap if I need that, if they're like threatening lethal somehow. So Ephemerate, draw some more cards. Ephemerate, return Snap, bounce the tokens, and now I have Snap if they go to kill one of my creatures. And this game should be over. I can draw a million cards every turn with Mold Drifter. Now if I find Ghostly Flicker, and if I ever get a Familiar, I have Infinite Life. And here I think I misclicked on the snap and didn't untap my lands, which is a bit awkward, because every blue mana I can use to draw 2 cards with the Archaeomancer and the Mold Drifter. Or every white and blue mana. But it doesn't matter, this game is over. They discarded a Mountain to the Blood. Evoke, Ephemerate, draw some more cards, have a snap, make some mana, draw more cards. Now I have Infinite Life, but it doesn't actually demonstrating the infinite life isn't very useful because like they're not going to concede to it. So I'll just attack them in the air a bunch of times. Yeah, see, I showed them the infinite life and they didn't care. So I choose to Fire Blast the Archaeomancer in response to the Ghostly Flicker, but I have a Prismatic Trance in my graveyard that I discarded, so they're just not winning. I choose to return Lose Focus so I can counter the Synth. For some reason the replay system is lagging again. There we go. And I think they conceded at that point. All right, game 2. So for the sideboard, I brought in 4 Hydroblasts and 1 Dispel, and I boarded out Deep Analysis, a Snap, 2 Flickers, and an Archaeomancer. The Archaeomancer is a bit weaker when they're going to bring in Relics. It is a good way to end the game where you can loop the Hydroblasts, but it's also a 4-mana spell, which is a lot of mana. Ghostly Flicker does nothing here, it's too slow. Deep Analysis is too slow. And Snap is not great, like snapping a 1-drop is not super effective, so. I do sometimes board differently if they've shown me like Hydroblast, or maybe I'll be more inclined to leave in the Deep Analysis. So I leave up Hydroblast for a Kuldotha, and they play a Chanter, I'll counter it. Play another one, I'll counter it again. I'm not super worried about fighting the card advantage battle since I have Deep Analysis, I just don't want them to be able to clock me. Play Kuldotha, definitely decent here. So here, I decided to cast Deep Analysis to spend all my mana, and I draw into some nice cards. I could have maybe played the Familiar, but it was just going to get bolted anyways. So we go down super low, down to 3. They have 1 land. I play Modern Age, discard Prismatic Trance so that I can flash it back and not lose the game. Attack, we flash back. Cycle. Draw Familiar and a Drifter. Perfect, because now I can go Evoke the Drifter, Ephemerate the Drifter, and hopefully draw into a counter or something. Well, at least I draw Preordain, so I can gain 1 life. And I'm not dead on board, but I am dead if they have a burn spell. Take 4, go to 2, draw some more cards. And I feel like at this point I've won, because now I can gain like a ton of life this turn, and they're not going to be able to come back. Hydroblast, Evoke, Ephemerate again, draw some more cards. Modern Age. Yeah. They basically needed to kill me on the previous turn. They cast Reckless Impulse, I'll counter. I'm just going to counter everything they play for the rest of the game. Deploy a bunch of creatures. They're going through all the tokens, and yeah, this game's over. Alright, they concede. Alright, under round 6. So I think I should have realized that this player always plays Tron and Mulligan this end, but I forgot that this player always plays Tron. And these cards are terrible versus Tron. Snap is awful, Faithful is awful. I guess I'm just too used to playing as mono red. Play Faithful. Maybe I can use it as a snap, like make mana on that with the snap later. Otherwise, pretty useless. Preordain, bottom, don't find anything good. They play map. At this point, I feel super far behind because they don't have. I don't have a familiar out, and they're just gonna find Tron and start countering everything I play. They breath weapon, destroy the Archaeomancer, preordain, find another preordain. It's not great, but whatever. Play another Archaeomancer. And they just use Scatter Ray to counter it. Definitely an interesting choice, but play a Drifter. They vote, or they flicker the tower and the Drifter. They pass. I guess preordain. I think the replay was bugged here or something. Because I think what happened here is they countered this preordain, I played another preordain, and then they like went to their turn and flickered the Drifter, and then I just conceded. We'll see what Magic Online thinks happened. Yeah. Definitely weird. Alright, against Tron. I have no idea how to sideboard properly against Tron. If people have good ideas, please let me know. What I chose to do was I boarded out all the Faithfuls, 1 Prismatic Strands, the Echoing Truth, 2 Snaps, and I brought in 1 Last Breath, 2 Negates, 2 Hydroblasts, 1 Dispel. I could definitely see bringing in the second Last Breath for their walls. I could also definitely see bringing in the other Prismatic Strands for the board wipes. But these cards are going to be like dead in your hand if you draw them in the early game. So I'm not sure. I also boarded in, I think, both Revoke Existences to try to snag the energy refractors to try to screw them on mana. I don't know if that's correct, but that's what I did. Alright, that hand's not keepable. This hand's also not keepable. This hand is okay. I have an early familiar, and then Evoke Ephemerate, about as good as a 5-card hand can be. So now I can play the Modern Age on my next turn, try to hit my 4th land drop. They have Power Plant, Cave of Temptation, which is definitely interesting. So I evoke the Muldrifter, hope to Ephemerate it. And they once again play Scatter Ray, which is... maybe I should have played around it? I don't know. It's possible I was supposed to play Deep Analysis here, because even if they don't have this, they could have Red Elemental Blast, and Deep Analysis is better against that than the Muldrifter. I could definitely see that. So I draw 2. Draw 2 more. And now I'm out of card draw, so this is definitely not a good spot to be in against Tron. So they pass. I attack for 2. At this point, I think I need card draw, so I just decide to go for an Ephemerate on the Vector Glider. They decide to cast Unwind. This is not the worst because they're countering these cards that don't really matter that much, but I decided to snap the Vector Glider so that I can get some looting and discard these lands. And they counter, which is fine. At least they're not countering like more important things that I could draw. They play Impulse looking for their Tron piece. They do not find it. And we draw Muldrifter, which is perfect. Evoke, Ephemerate. I'm very lucky they did not have Red Blast there. So now I can revoke their Refractor and hold up Negate. And hopefully, yep, so they go for a Power Blast on the Muldrifter, I negate it. They evoke their own. Draw some cards. Mole Drifter. So now I have the Ephemerate loop with negate, so they conceded. Game 3. This hand's terrible. This hand is okay. Discard Prismatic Strands. I really need an early familiar, but hopefully the preordain can get me there. I don't find either a familiar or bounce land. It's fine. I'm going to hold up Loose Focus. Counter the Mole Drifter. Modern Age, discard DA. So they play the Seagate on black. So I'm assuming that they have what's the name of the card? The one that makes you bounce permanent and then discard it. And so I decided not to play the Chancery out for like 3 different turns because I assumed that they had this card in their hand, which maybe I should be playing around, maybe I shouldn't. Dinrova Horror is the name of the card. Draw some cards, leave up negate. Can't counter the Drifter with a negate. They draw 2. They still don't have Tron. Flip the Modern Age. Cast Preordain. If I Deep Analysis, Dispel, which seems good. Flashback DA. Play our land, go to cleanup. Discard a bounce land, yep. They play a map. I can't counter that with negate, which is annoying. So now they have Tron. It's possible I was supposed to leave up negate there. So I try to revoke the Refractor. They try to flicker to save it. So I'll dispel. It's possible I was supposed to use negate there and save dispel since dispel is more mana efficient. I'm not sure. But negate can counter stuff like more refractors or I don't know, maps or whatever. Play a Drifter, can't counter that. And this is a problem with this matchup is that the only card I have that can counter creatures is Loose Focus, and Loose Focus is not very good because they have so much mana. And the fact that I don't have access to Sage's Roar Denizen to mill them out is a pretty big problem. So I play a Drifter. They go to exclude it. I negate. Pass the turn. Play Impulse. And here I'm just kind of hoping they don't have Dinrova Horror, which would be really bad. But they're kind of choked on mana here. Because I destroyed the Refractor, they only have 2 blue mana per turn, which limits the number of spells I can play. So I find an Archaeomancer and a Familiar, which is good. They try to counter it. Imagine a counter back. They have Mournwelk, which is definitely annoying. If they can flicker this every turn, I will not be able to play the game anymore. They play Dinrova Horror. They just choose to bounce the Modern Age, which maybe they could have bounced this land. I'm not sure. I guess either way it's pretty good for them. Definitely not blocking with Snap. So I bounce the Drifter, play the Drifter. Play Archaeomancer, return Snap, snap the Drifter, play the Drifter. Find Prohibit. I'm looking for Ghostly Flickers or Ephemerates with this so I can start countering all their spells. I don't find it, and they play a Refractor and I counter it because I thought maybe they had like an Ephemerate that they couldn't cast because they didn't have any white mana. In worst case, I'm just trading for a random card, which is not great but not terrible. Choose to take this. It's possible I was supposed to double block the Mournwelk, but I decided that I wanted to keep the Drifter around in case I drew like a Snap or an Ephemerate. They cast down their Archaeomancer, draw Ephemerate, draw 2, draw some more, draw some more, draw some more. So now I'm feeling pretty good about my spot. I can hold up this Prismatic Trance in case they have a board wipe. The only issue is that now I'm at 6 and they have a bunch of attackers. So I double block the Mournwelk, take 4, go to 2. They play Impulse. Play another impulse. Play a map, sure. They find Cave of Temptation. They return Mold Drifter using Pulse of Marasa. Not ideal for me. So now I draw some more cards on my upkeep. I feel like in this spot I should be winning most of the time. Archaeomancer returns Ephemerate. So now I have Ephemerate in my hand. Replay the Modern Age. Let's see. Ephemerate returns Negate. They replay Drifter. Play another Drifter. Attack for 4, so I have to block. I put Flashback or cast Strands, name black, so I have to jump block. I cast Mnemonic Wall, which I again don't have any way to counter. Return Ghostly Flicker, which I do have the ability to counter. Ephemerate returns Ephemerate, to loot again. Draw some cards, return a second Ephemerate. So now I have access to like 3 counterspells, or 4 if they have a red spell. So on their end step, I go for an Ephemerate. I don't know if this is right. So I try to return Prohibit. They respond with Ghostly Flicker on the wall and the bog, so this has to be countered, or else I'll lose my whole graveyard. So I counter. They counter back. So now they have 1 card in hand. I Ephemerate the other Archaeomancer to return Negate. Negate. Now they have another Ghostly Flicker on the wall and the bog. So I don't have a way to get access, like I don't have another Flicker effect to get these counterspells. So I'm forced to just Last Breath the wall and lose my whole graveyard, which is a problem, because I have 6 cards in my deck. And they're at 20, so to find a way to kill them. And at this point, I think I actually stopped and looked at my deck to see how many counterspells I had left. And I think Hydroblast is the only counterspell I had left in my entire deck. So I basically have to kill them with just what's on the board, and I don't have that many turns left. In this spot, I was thinking maybe if they attack, I can block with the Archaeomancer, then play the Chancery, pick up the Mire, replay the Mire, and then return the Archaeomancer. But if I play the Chancery this turn, they're going to know not to attack, because then they know I can put the Archaeomancer on top to put another card in my deck. So I attack. Maybe I should have attacked with more, but I'm at 2, so I can't really afford to take 2. I block, as planned. I draw a Storefront. You can look at my deck. So my deck is Ghostly Flicker, Preordained, Sunscape Familiar. So the only card that does anything here is Ghostly Flicker, because I can flicker the Archaeomancer and the Tranquil Cove to gain 1 life. But I am very much afraid of decking out. Like, I want to play this Mold Drifter as an attacker, but drawing 2 cards is not good for me right now. So I decide to play it anyways. Attack. They line up some blocks. So now I'm not worried about them attacking me back, because I can flicker the Tranquil Cove and the Archaeomancer and gain a bunch of life if I need to. And I actually don't need to play this, because I can flicker the Mire and the Archaeomancer and put these 2 cards on the top. So now I actually have effectively 4 cards left in my deck. So they pass. So I decide to put the 2 creatures on top. I attack for 8, and now I just have to hope that they brick for 1 turn, basically. So they cast Scatter Shot, and they do 2 shots on this Drifter and then 2 shots on this Drifter, which this is actually fine because I can Hydroblast one of the copies that's targeting this guy and one of the targets that's one of the copies that's targeting the Mole Drifter, and not have to worry about this at all. Note that I can't blink the Drifters because if I do that I will deck myself out. Ephemerate, return Hydroblast, Hydroblast. Ephemerate, return Hydroblast in case they draw a red spell. And they brick, and I win. So now I am 5-1 going into the top 8. So in the top 8, I'm against Talisker. I don't know this player, and I didn't know what they were on. And I asked in the Discord if anybody knew what they were on, and someone said they were probably on a fast deck because they were able to beat Tron. So I assumed that they were on mono red. So I'm looking at that hand that was not for good versus mono red, and let's see if I can go back. See what the first hand was. Oh, come on. Spoilers. Okay. So, yeah, this hand is not good versus anything, so I mulligan. This hand, I think it's good versus mono red. I can bounce their tokens. I can use Prismatic Strands to buy some time. Seems fine. And they're on Ponza. So at this point I'm thinking, yep, I am basically just dead because this is probably Familiar's worst matchup. Either this or Cycling Storm. You basically just never win. Destroy our land, cycle. Turn 3, they play Annoyed Altasaur into another Acid Moss. So I choose to concede. I don't think there's any set of draws that can do anything here. Even assuming they have absolutely nothing, I'm just dead. Alright, game 2. So I don't know exactly how to sideboard here, but I sideboarded out 3 Faithfuls, an Echoing Truth, and then a Prohibit and a Deep Analysis. The Prohibit doesn't actually counter most of their cards because they all cost more than 2 mana. Dispel doesn't really do anything. Faithfuls could be useful, but I feel like just trying to gain life isn't where I want to be. Like, I'm trying to just combo them out. And then Deep Analysis I felt like I didn't have time for. And I brought in 2 Negates, 2 Revoke Resistances, and 2 Last Breaths for the elves. Cast Preordain, find a bounce land. Which is not very good against them. They have the elf. I have the Familiar, which is definitely the best thing I can do, because they can't destroy that as well as they can destroy all my lands. They pass back. Doesn't look like they're doing very much. Play the Modern Age, discard Deep Analysis. They destroy another land. They discard Prismatic Strands. Flashback Deep Analysis. They pass again, so it looks like they're bricking, which is good. They probably have like a bunch of 5-drops in their hand. And at this point, I feel like I probably just want to play the Familiar. And then maybe snap the elf. Nope. So I choose to use Flicker as a ritual, so I can use the snap to draw 2 cards. So I evoke, snap, evoke, snap, cast Preordain, find Negate, so now I can negate their next LD spell, and they concede. Game 3. Alright, this hand is okay. If they don't have a land destruction spell on turn 2, then I can cast Negate, I guess. I don't know. I feel like I just had to take a risk because this matchup is pretty terrible. I don't even know what I'm looking for in an opening hand. I guess a hand with a familiar is probably better than this. I maybe could have mulliganed. But like I have 3 lands, and any hand with like 2 lands or less is just going to get completely destroyed by their deck, so. And they destroy the land. Play another one. Cast Preordain, find an island. Play an Arbor Elf, say go. Have the Modern Age, try to dig. Destroy another land. I get to hold up and negate for their next land destruction spell, which I can counter. They do it again. So now they have no cards, but I have no lands really, so play the Chancery, hope they don't draw another land destruction spell. They do. So now I have not a whole lot going on. If they ever draw like a Monarch card or a Initiative card, I just lose, but looks like they have not. Attack for 2. So I decided to snap and replay the Modern Age because I just need to find lands. Like, I just need to find lands as soon as possible because if they ever find a payoff for all this mana, I'm just going to lose very quickly. Discard Deep Analysis so that I can flash it back because none of these other spells in my hands do anything. Then I go to clean up, discard Prismatic Strands and a Lose Focus. They destroy more lands. Play Preordain. I find a Chancery. I'm just hoping they don't have another land destruction spell. Which they don't. So now I'm feeling pretty good, because now I can go Familiar, Snap, Evoke, Ephemerate, and then if they brick for just one more turn, I can play this Familiar, play an Archaeomancer, and return Ghostly Flicker, and hopefully start doing things. Play Familiar, play an Archaeomancer, return Ephemerate. Now I feel like I'm going to be winning most of the time since they have 2 Prismatic Strands, and they drew an Arbor Elf and they concede. Definitely good. Alright, on to the top 4. So I knew this player was going to be on mono red going in. I didn't know exactly what their deck looked like. First hand had 1 land, can't keep that. Find Plains. Definitely not the greatest start against mono red, but it'll do. I decided not to use the snap. It seems kind of pointless to snap their Swiftspear, so it costs 1 mana, they'll just replay it. And I decided to discard a Preordain because I didn't think I'd have time to cast all the Preordains. They played Barb Batterfist. This is definitely like a different take on this deck that I hadn't seen before. But I'm definitely glad I didn't use the snap because now I can use that to destroy the Rebel token. I discard Mire, find a bounce land, bounce the token, play the Modern Age, discard an island, yep. So now I can play the bounce land, snap, and then replay the Archaeomancer. And I return Preordain, I think, because I'm looking for card draw at this point. They pass back. I find a Faithful, which is great. Play Preordain. Draw a Deep Analysis, which is fine. It's a bit slow, but I should have enough blockers to be able to use it. So they Blast the Faithful. Looks like they drew that for turn. Chain Lightning, Vector Glider, yep. We're going to take 3, go down to 13. Draw Faithful, which is our best draw for sure. Draw 2 cards, gain a life, pass the turn, play a Synth, reveal Bolt. And here they attack with just the Swiftspear, and I decide not to block. Because like if I block with the Faithful, they can bolt it, and I want to be able to use this for life gain. And if I block with the Glider, they'll just bolt either the Archaeomancer or me, and just kill it in combat. So I decided not to block. I didn't expect to die from 14, but they do in fact have lethal damage. Bolt, Lava Dart, Flashback Lava Dart, Fire Blast, and I die. Alright, second game. Alright. Definitely should not have kept this opening hand, but I decided to keep it for some reason. I think it's not the worst. Like, I have 20 lands out of 53 cards that are good. I have 4 cantrips. I have 2 more Hydroblasts that are good. I definitely should not have kept this hand, but it's decent. Counter the Swiftspear. Find a Preordain. I bought him a Preordain, bought him a Molderfer. Find an Ashbrand. It's definitely awkward here. I'd like to be able to play this and then play the Faithful, but I can't. So they have 1 land, they pass. I draw a land, hold up Hydroblast. Take 1. I decided to counter the Epicure because I feel like they are on 1 land and they want to be able to use the looting to hit their second land. But they do have a second land. Play Implement. Cycle. Now I can play the Familiar, and since they obviously drew the second land for their third turn, so now I can hold up Blue's Focus and counter whatever they play. But of course they draw a land for turn, and bolt the Familiar, so this does nothing. Play a Faithful, cast the Modern Age. I don't think this Blue's Focus is going to be doing anything. I can't really afford to hold up mana anymore. They play Reckless Impulse, reveal Unholy Heat. It's definitely a problem because they do have Delirium. They have Artifact, Creature, Instant, Sorcery, so they can kill the Faithful. So I need to hold up Hydroblast for that. So I play the Familiar, play the Faithful, say go. Play the Swiftspear, Unholy Heat the Faithful, I counter. They counter back. They Fire Blast the Faithful and attack for a bunch of damage. This is 10 damage. And I can't block really effectively, so I decide not to. Draw Echoing Truth, which is definitely not good here. I would much rather this be Dawnbringer Cleric in this spot. At this point, I didn't really feel like I could risk taking a bunch of damage. So they attack like this. And I can decide either to bounce the Barb Batterfist and leave them with a 2/2, which then I could block effectively, and then take 2 here, or I can bounce the Rebels and trade the Swiftspear. The reason I didn't want to bounce the Batterfist is because they can just replay them and make more creatures. So I decided to bounce the tokens, I think. Yep. I traded the Swiftspear, draw nothing, they equip, I block, I draw nothing again, draw nothing again, they chain lightning me, okay. Draw Familiar, not very useful here. And they Galvanic Blast me and I die. Alright. Unfortunate loss at the end there. I probably should have mulliganed the hand in the second game. And then in game 1, I don't think I was supposed to block. I was definitely looking to be in a good spot if I was able to untap there. But I really only died to Lava Dart and Fire Blast. I don't know. Maybe I was supposed to block, I'm not sure. Anyways, thanks for watching.